We're putting the band back together.
Hi everyone, so welcome back to my channel. Thanks for subscribing if you will. Anyway, this is a book review about Kings of the Wyld by Nicholas Eames. Kings of the Wyld. It's been ages since I've read a fantasy book, if you're not including the urban fantasy I've been reading, but a proper sword and sorcery type fantasy. So I was looking forward to this. I'd heard about it, but only in a general sense. I'd only heard it was worth reading for fans of fantasy, but didn't really know a lot about it. And started looking into it a bit more, and I'd read that it was about a band of mercenaries that kind of got back together again after sort of aging and doing other things that kind of got them out of practice, if you like. And there was a lot of kind of talk of this idea of the band getting back together, a band of mercenaries, but the band getting back together was kind of like a reference to musicians getting back together, and I thought it sounded really interesting. And as a musician myself, also a musician with real sort of like romantic kind of feelings about bands getting back together and like making up after falling out and all that. I love all that sort of stuff. I thought, well, this might be a nice kind of mix of that kind of thing plus sword and sorcery setting, and it might be quite an interesting thing. What I didn't expect was how funny it was going to be, and how much the characters were going to be so likable, and how much I enjoyed the book. I literally couldn't put it down. I wanted to keep reading it, so whenever I had a free chance, I wanted to read another chapter. The chapters are very short, and it rattles along really quickly. It's like 500 pages long, so it's not a short book, but the chapters are short. So each chapter, something specific happens. So you don't get a whole chapter of just like chat about reflections on something, or you don't get a chapter which is just like setting a scene. It's all like movement. Things are always moving. The characters are always moving. But within that, you've got real development of the characters themselves. So the way they're feeling, their reflections on the past, their relationships with each other. All of those things get explored really well in the book, and you get to know them extremely well. There are 5 main characters, as in the ones that are the band of mercenaries. The band of mercenaries are called Saga, and there are other bands of mercenaries in the book, and there are other groups that they encounter and have relationships with, and some that they meet for the first time, and all those kind of things. But those 5 are probably the ones with the most character development, and some more than others, I'd say. So there's like 3 that have a lot more development. But having said that, there's loads in there that really get you enjoying the way that they have to make decisions, the way that they deal with loss, or some of the surprises that happen in the book, and the fact they keep going because they're up against an unlikely positive result. They're going into a situation that is suicidal, that classic thing where people, like heroic characters, decide to do something that looks suicidal. That's kind of referenced a lot, that it looks like they're not going to get anywhere. They're not going. They're trying to do something unlikely to succeed, but it's all for the great cause. It's all down to trying to do the right thing and to rescue somebody that they love. But within that, it is very funny. The way that it's written, it's not just the banter between the characters, because there's lots of that, but actually the way the sort of narrative parts of it are written, the actual author's voice is very funny as well. So every element of that, the author's voice as well as the characters' voices, do make you laugh sometimes, make you smile sometimes, make you really kind of like, some of it gives you goosebumps when they get to the heart of something they've had to deal with, like a relationship issue, or some kind of regret they've got. Those are the kind of things that are explored in that. They do talk about the fact that they're old mercenaries that haven't been together for a while, and they talk about some of the things that had happened in the past, some of the misunderstandings, some of the things that they'd left unsaid, or some of the things that they regretted that they wanted to apologise for, or that they had to explain. Things like that are in there. But it's nice because it's all wrapped up in a funny plot and a funny set of circumstances and funny dialogue and all that sort of stuff. So it really is an enjoyable read. It's really a lot of fun. There's a sequel that I want to read, but this definitely took me by surprise. I didn't expect it to be as entertaining, as gripping, and also one really cool thing about it I didn't expect as well was it all builds up to a big climax at the end, and the final confrontation is done really well, and it gets really chaotic in a really good way, and it all makes narrative sense, even though there are some liberties as far as luck goes and that kind of stuff. But it's a lot of fun, and it's a really big ending, big climax, and it's neatly wrapped up in a really nice way. It's got the kind of ending that fits the book, if you like. And if it had gone a different way, which I think some authors might have done, it would be fine, but I don't think it would have been in the tone of the book. So the tone is pretty consistent in the book as well. I try not to put any spoilers out there, but yeah, it's just very consistent and very enjoyable, and definitely worth a read. And it's a nice thing for me to get back into sword and sorcery with, because when I was younger, I used to read a lot of sword and sorcery. I kind of concentrated a lot on science fiction, so it was nice to read another fantasy book. I'm going to read some horror books now this month, but in the meantime, this was a really cool addition to what I was reading. So Nicholas Eames, Kings of the Wyld, getting the band back together.